Well, this video was quite a journey. I just finished filming the whole video and editing it. In this video, I'm gonna take you through planting seeds in my garden. Not everything though, because we have a lot more planting still left to do, but planting seeds in the garden, creating a prosperity talisman. I say talisman loosely, talisman charm, some protective qualities to it as well. The talisman will be for prosperity and growth for a good harvest, and also to open portals. I'll talk about that a little bit later. And then the gnome ritual. In this video, I do show my gnome ritual. So for those that have been on my channel for a while, you know that this is my third year working with the gnomes, and I really love working with these beings, especially when it comes to tapping into the earth element and working with my garden, because they're just fun, whimsical creatures that really help the abundance of my garden. I've had some crazy experiences with the gnomes in the past, and I'm really excited to see what happens this year. So I'm going to do a ritual in this video to invite the gnomes into my garden space after all of the planting has been completed. Maybe sometime I'll sit down with you all over tea and tell you the entire story of everything that has happened between me and the gnomes and how I became a believer from being a non-believer. I was very much a non-believer skeptic. I was never really into fae or elementals or anything like that. I thought they were really cool, of course, but I was always a little skeptical whether it was effective to work with them. Do they even exist? Are they egregoric beings at this point? Are they fae living in the fourth dimension? I don't know, but I've had some crazy unexplainable things happen with the gnomes, and so maybe that's a story for another time, but this year I want to work with them again. And so we're just gonna do a lot of green witchcraft in this vlog, planting, talisman making, and gnomes. Good morning. It's really bright out here and my eyes have not fully adjusted. Also, I just got out of the shower and I'm not going to be doing my hair and makeup just for the sake of like a 5-second clip. That's silly to me. So anyways, are you ready to plant? Actually, let me show you the app that I use for gardening because I swear by this. So this is the app that I use. It's called Gardener's Lunar Calendar, and it's fantastic because it shows you the moon phases and it'll tell you which days you should plant seeds versus harvest versus transplant, etc. So it is March 30th. It is the day after the new moon. And what that actually means is, so at the new moon, it says the moon draws water into the surface attraction, and this causes inflation and seed germination. So it's a perfect time to be planting seeds. And the moon really does have a big impact on the moisture levels in the soil. So if you are looking to plant seeds this year, or even just looking for the best days to harvest, even if you harvest plants at a certain point in the lunar cycle, if you harvest at some points in the lunar cycle that are not good for harvesting, it is said that the plants won't last as long. Like if you pull carrots or pluck leafy greens, they just won't last as long in your fridge. But if you pluck them at the right harvest point with the lunar phase in mind, they'll last a lot longer because of the moisture levels. Isn't that crazy? So yeah, definitely, I use this app all the time. Definitely recommend it. All right, let me give you the lay of the land. Also, it is incredibly windy here today, so I do not know if this footage is going to be good or not. We'll see. My partner is redoing our whole compost system this year, so we actually don't have a lot of our compost to add to the soil. So we bought some extra fertilizer. I'll show you what we bought for each bed. But we have the garden beds labeled, so that's A on the back side. This is B for blueberries. This one, these are our blueberry bushes, right where Olive, my kitty, is. So we have A, B, C, and D. So we are starting with garden bed C today. We're gonna be planting some flowers in this one. It is literally so windy today. I don't know if this footage is gonna be salvageable, but we have to plant these seeds today. So this year, I'm excited to plant some flowers for pollinators. And I really love to use the flowers in bouquets for home blessings and, you know, little charms and stuff in the home. So we're gonna be growing some cosmos, dwarf fairy bouquets. I'm excited about these ones. I've never grown them before. Some morning glories. These ones look so beautiful. This is like a Maybelline commercial this morning. Who is this beauty with the wind blowing in the hair? And then we're also gonna grow some echinacea. I'm really excited to grow some echinacea so we can do some medicinal stuff together later on. I'm hoping later in the season we can harvest some echinacea together and do more medicinal things, maybe make some tinctures and stuff. So I'm pretty excited about that. And then for fertilizers, usually we would just use our own compost as fertilizer, but again, we're totally redoing the compost system this year, so we did have to buy some. I really like this organic tone series. They have a bunch of different types of fertilizers. So this one's called plant tone. There is also a berry tone. So this is the one that we use to drop the pH for our blueberries. And there is also a garden tone. They just have a bunch of different, like whatever you need for your soil. So this is an all-purpose one for all the vegetables that we're gonna be planting, but we're gonna be using the plant tone specifically for the flowers today. And then if you missed my March vlog, by the way, we did a whole soil testing science experiment, so I'll link the March vlog in the description box, but we got to test the soil and see if it was like more acidic, more alkaline, or if it was more neutral. I am going to be adding some garden lime to where the peas are going to be planted because peas like it to be slightly alkaline. So this is going to raise the pH for the peas when we get to planting those. So apparently we cannot plant the morning glories today because you have to soak them overnight for 24 hours. So I have them soaking and I will plant those tomorrow. But we can plant some peas. We've got some leftover from last year. So peas are gonna go in garden bed D. So this is our pea trellis. And we do have to add in, we're gonna add in that garden lime. We're actually gonna do a little bit of an experiment this year. So let me show you what I mean. We are definitely adding garden lime, but we also need to add more nutrients to the soil. So we're also gonna try to add this garden tone. We're gonna mix garden tone and garden lime together. I don't know if this is gonna work. This may get really, really weird. So dusty.
Yeah, careful not to.
Kind of hard not to. Oh. Oh my God, the wind. Oh my God. I can't even spread this. Yeah.
Dump a bunch of it into one specific area, mix it into the dirt, and then spread that dirt around.
Well, it's kind of, I've already done most of it now, so. Yeah. So the peas have been planted. We're gonna be planting a bunch of greens in the rest of this garden bed. So we're gonna do spinach. I like the giant noble variety. We're also doing kale. I need to get another kale. We're doing red Russian, but there's like a green variety that I can't remember what it's called, but we need to plant that as well. And then cabbage. So just lots of greens in this bed with the peas, and then the other garden bed will be carrots and other things. Let's take a moment to appreciate the lilac bush. The lilac is coming alive. and just planted some wildflowers and more cosmos because we had leftovers. This is our little thyme bush that hopefully is starting to come back to life, and our rosemary is looking very, very dead, which is wild because is this the first year that it's died? Why is it looking like that? It's usually thriving. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's going on with our rosemary this year. And then I was gifted some mugwort, so I really need to get this mugwort in somewhere. I'm not sure where we're gonna plant it just yet. Also, the blueberries are budding as well. Definitely spring. Good morning, it is a new day. So I soaked the morning glories overnight and oh my gosh, they look so different. They actually look swollen now. They're a lot bigger than they were beforehand. So I'm gonna be planting the morning glories today. And then also, I didn't realize it yesterday, but I didn't get all the seeds that I needed. So I need to go to Home Depot right now and pick up some carrot seeds. I also need to get some tomato starts. I wish that we could do starts here, but our house is so small. It's a really, really tiny house. We have a wonderful backyard, of course, but it's just so cold here in the Pacific Northwest that there's no place for me to do starts. There's no space in my home, for one, and for two, it's just too cold to try to do starts anywhere else except for inside your home. So because we have no space, we just have to get starts from home improvement store instead. So I'm gonna pick up some tomato starts and maybe look at what else they have. I do want to pick up some potting soil as well, because not only are we growing stuff in the garden beds, but I will actually be growing a couple herbs in pots. So yeah, potting soil, tomato starts, and carrot seeds. Oh, and I will show you my favorite type of carrot too, because we've grown a lot of different types of carrots, and I will show you my favorite. It is the best carrot. So let's go to Home Depot and then we'll finish the planting. Let's see, these are usually filled with starts, but they aren't, there isn't anything there quite yet. That is okay, because we still have all of these starts to work with. I don't know if they're gonna have the tomatoes yet. Oh, they do have the tomatoes, okay. So we always get at least one of the super sweet 100s. Oh, you know what? I need a basket, hold on. So we have potting mix. I just like the Miracle-Gro kind for pots. And then this year we're gonna try, this is something new. Oh, wait a minute. I grabbed the wrong one. I need to put this back. This is supposed to be a tomato. So this is the sweet 100 for the red cherry tomatoes. And then this one is the sun sugar. We always get the sun sugar. They're a yellow tomato. And then I wanted to get an early bigger tomatoes, but I accidentally grabbed the wrong one, so I'll have to swap that out. But the carrots, there's a bunch of different kinds of carrots, and these ones, these are the ones. The Scarlet Nantes, I think that's how you say it, but the scarlet ones, these are the best. Okay, let's go swap these out and pay. Here are the items I picked up. So again, the scarlet carrots. I think these are the absolute best because we've grown a bunch of different types of carrots, and these ones are the most crisp. They're the most moisture filled. They just, when you bite into them, there is that perfect crunch, but it doesn't hurt your teeth. I did end up picking up a rosemary start. We do already have a big rosemary plant, but I'm worried that the storm killed it. It is not looking well. We did prune it back after the last clip that you saw, and so hopefully it does come back to life a little bit, but it's looking a little worse for wear, worse than it has been in previous years. I think the storm this last year just didn't, I think it killed it. So rosemary, I use this in my medicinal herbal cabinet a lot, so I need a rosemary. So I got this starter just in case the other one has died, which would make me so sad because we've had that rosemary for a couple years at least. And then I also picked up 2 cherry tomato plants. So this one again is the sun sugar. This is the yellow cherry plant. It's so good. This is the super sweet 100. So this is a red cherry tomato. I always like the variety in salads of a red cherry and a yellow cherry. And then this one is called Early Girl. This is a much larger tomato. So this is going to be an experiment. I've never grown the Early Girls before, but because I want to do a lot of canning this year and I would love to have a bunch of just stewed tomatoes in my pantry for the whole winter, that that would be amazing to make like chilies and other soups and sauces and things like that. So I'm gonna try these early girls and see if that works. So let's go home. I'm gonna plant probably off camera just to get it done. I just wanna get it done and get it out of the way. So I'm gonna plant everything else that needs to be planted today and then check back in with you. Wow, it is much quieter today. There's no wind blowing, but everything has been, well, not everything, but just finished planting the morning glories in garden bed C, finished planting garden bed A, which is all carrots. We're doing an entire garden bed of just carrots this year. We eat so many carrots and we never have enough. So I'm gonna experiment and we're gonna grow, like, this is literally all carrots. And I think we're gonna be giving carrots as gifts to people because I think perhaps I planted too many carrots, but I don't care because we eat a lot of them. So there's a lot more planting that still needs to be done. Like in the front of my house, we have a whole herbal garden that needs to be done, but at least we have the wildflowers and the cosmos planted. The lilac is looking beautiful, and we have this entire garden bed to go. It's very empty right now. Tomatoes are going in there, and then just like a bunch of herbs. So I think all of that is going to be in the April vlog, but at least for right now, we've got some of the planting started. It is raining today, so that's like perfect timing. Thank you, Mother Earth. I just finished the seeds and I can feel the rain coming in, so that is absolute perfect timing. But we're gonna make a garden talisman together, and then I still have to do my gnome ritual to bring in the gnomes. So I'm gonna use the mushroom powder from a couple vlogs ago, and I'm gonna sprinkle it all around the perimeter as I do my chanting and dancing and leave offerings and such. So next time I see you on this video, we'll be doing the talisman. Oh, before we go, I wanted to point out another thing too. I don't think I caught this on the video at any point, but there are so many opportunities to weave in some green witchcraft. So I am almost always burying things in my garden beds, specific intentions or easily biodegradable items that pertain to a specific intention. You can also put sigils. There's a prosperity sigil that I do over my garden beds at the very end of planting, which I don't think I filmed that, but you can put sigils in all four corners of your garden beds. So lots of opportunity to weave in a little bit of magic there, but we'll do the talisman next. It is well into the evening now, but I want to explain to you the setup that I have here and what I'm hoping to do with making this talisman. There's a couple different components that I want to weave into it. And by the way, there are so many different ways to make talismans. This is more of a witchcraft meets chaos magic way of making a talisman. So what I want to do, there's 3 different components that are going to go onto this talisman that I'm going to hang in my garden. So the first one is this corn husk doll. I received this a while ago from, I think it was a subscription box, I can't remember which one, and I've used it on altars since then for harvest season and such, but I really wanted to use this because what's really interesting is if you research European folk traditions and North America, Central America, South America, there is a common theme of working with corn husk dollies, which I find so fascinating because I was originally exposed to the corn husk doll through European traditions, but then when I was traveling through Belize and Guatemala, learning more about Mayan practices, they very much viewed corn as sacred. So every culture has a little bit different of a tradition, but there seems to be this commonality of using the corn husks from the last season. So what's really cool about these corn husk dolls is that you would make them out of the corn husk from last season, from last year, and then you would hang on to it all winter long as a symbol of good luck and prosperity for your garden. And then you would put out your corn husk doll in your garden as a symbol of prosperity. So this is going to be my symbol of prosperity and growth. I also wanted to add a very tiny little pentacle because a pentacle is a symbol of protection. This pendant has already been consecrated for protection, but I'm going to consecrate it again when the time comes. So this pentacle, the corn husk doll, and then I'm also going to tie in a little hagstone with this. If you saw my room tour, I talked about hagstones and I talked about how first of all, they're very, very common in the Pacific Northwest, and they're meant to be portals into another dimension. So they help kind of thin the veil, and I want to do this gnome ritual and really thin the veil when it comes to working with these entities. So I thought adding in a hagstone to just help me with better sight and help create that portal between me and the other world, I really wanted to add that in. So the holes in the hagstone, if you look through a hole in a hagstone, it is said to be a portal to the other world. So I wanted to add some, I don't know, whimsy into this talisman as well. So we've got prosperity and luck with the cornhusk doll, protection for my harvests with the pentacle, and then a portal to the other world with the hagstone. And then those three together, I'm gonna tie with this garden twine. I don't know how it's gonna look yet, but I'm gonna tie all three of these together. I'm also going to consecrate them using the elements. I'm really inspired because this month we're actually reading a book on the elements. We haven't started it yet. It actually is, I think it's day one today, or maybe it was day one yesterday. We just started reading the book, but it just kind of brought me back to how I originally used to do consecrations. There's so many different ways that you can consecrate something, but the way that I used to always do it is with the 4 elements. So fire, water, air, and earth, and you can even incorporate spirit if you want to, but as you take this item, you're going to chant, you're going to imbue it with your energy, you're going to basically assign this item whatever task it is that you want this item to have. You're going to consecrate it, meaning you are assigning this to a very specific purpose. And then you're going to use all of the elements in that consecration. So for the fire, you would kind of bring your item over the fire. Obviously, don't let it burn up. That would be really terrible. Then you're going to sprinkle it with water as you say your consecration, you know, as you're chanting whatever it is that you'd like to chant. You pass it through smoke for air, and then you sprinkle some earth on it, and then you can incorporate spirit if you want. I'm actually going to share with you what I have here. So for fire, I just have a little tea light candle here. And by the way, if you want to make a garden charm for yourself, you could always use other crystals as well. You don't have to, you know, do what I'm doing here, obviously. There's so many different ways that you could make a talisman for this, but little tea light candle, and then I'm gonna anoint the tea light candle with this oil. It's called Earthly Roots. I thought that would be perfect for the ritual that we're doing. And then water, this has actually been sitting out under the sun, so I'm using a little bit of solar water because I want to bring in just a little bit of solar energy into this working. For incense, I'm going to start up a charcoal disc, and then I'm going to burn some copal resin. So I'm going to be using copal resin for this, but you could just use an incense, like anything that smokes is fine. If you have a bundle of herbs that you want to burn, or an incense stick or something like that, you just need the smoke. It doesn't really matter what it is that you're burning, unless you want to add additional layers of correspondence, like me with the copal. I wanted to use copal for this. And then for earth, a lot of people usually do salt, but I'm actually going to use dirt from my garden bed because that fits our whole agenda so much more than me using salt. So I've got some actual dirt here from one of the beds. And then I am incorporating spirit. So for spirit, I'm actually going to be using the mushroom powder. For those that have seen my vlog from a couple months ago, you saw me attempt to grow mushrooms, and then I ground them down to a powder, and I meditated with the mushrooms and whatnot. And I'm actually going to use this in my gnome ritual to sprinkle around the garden beds, but I wanted to use it in this ritual as well. I really wanted to sprinkle the mushroom powder, symbolizing spirit, you know, the spirit of the mushroom in this whole working. So yeah, those are my elements. So I am going to consecrate each item first before I tie them all together, because they all have different purposes. Like this one's for prosperity, this one's for protection, this one's for opening a portal. So once I consecrate each item, then I'm going to tie them together with this. Oh, and one more note, I wanted to say I'm using the word talisman very loosely here. Whatever. I'm using the term talisman loosely because the terms amulets, talismans, charms, they really do vary so much depending on the culture. There is no one correct definition for these terms, and people try to say all the time that there is a correct way of viewing amulets, talismans, and charms, but when you actually look at other cultures and how they use these words, that's just not the case. So for the most part, a talisman is something that will attract something to you, maybe maybe a spirit, maybe an intention. An amulet is usually something that's used for protection and pushing things away. A charm is something that already has power that you don't necessarily have to assign to it. It's something that just innately has its own energy based on its symbolism or cultural context, etc. So the lines get blurred. The lines totally get blurred. I just don't want the language police up in my comments telling me that's not a talisman. Listen, it's loosely a talisman. That's what I'm calling it because that's, I suppose, what works best for what we're doing today. Okay, and there she is. Got the hagstone here, and then the little pentacle hanging on the opposite side. And then I'm just gonna take this corn husk doll and hang it up on the pea trellis. I think I'm gonna hang it from the pea trellis, and it's almost gonna look like a little mini scarecrow, which I find that that's really funny. I am a little bit concerned because it rains so much here. I know that this is probably gonna get a little bit ruined in the rain, but that's okay. I do worry about the hagstone disintegrating a little bit, but I have a lot of hagstones because they're so common over here. So if it disintegrates, and that's totally fine. And there's just nothing that I can do about that. It's a rainy, I live in a very, very rainy place, so that's fine. But if she gets wet and this is the only year that I can use her, then it is what it is. I just really wanted to use her for this because I haven't gotten to yet, and I'm really excited. So we will tie the corn husk doll up right before the gnome ritual. So hopefully you and I can do the gnome ritual tomorrow. We'll sprinkle the mushroom powder. We'll hang up the talisman. I'm gonna leave some offerings as well, which I will definitely share what I'm leaving for offerings. And then the whole ritual really just involves a lot of like singing and dancing and playing fairy music and inviting the gnomes to come play. It's a very playful ritual that I do. It's not serious at all. So it's basically just leaving offerings, dancing, having a silly good old time, but I'll talk more about the gnomes tomorrow. Good morning and welcome to my 1980s kitchen. I'm gonna show you what I'm gonna be offering to the gnomes. I've found that offerings they can be so diverse, but root vegetables or really anything that grows in the dirt, the gnomes are gonna love. Hearty, earthy, very steady, very grounding. So you can offer root vegetables like potatoes. You can even do some baked goods, maybe some bread with some honey. Lots of different things that you can offer to the gnomes, but here's what I'm going to be doing for this ritual. So I am definitely going to offer at least one potato. I think I have an apple that's going bad, so I think I'm gonna split this apple in half. It's just a little soft, so I'm gonna cut it in half so you can see the star inside the apple. And then maybe I'll stick some clove into it for prosperity as well. But I'm gonna do apple, potato, and then I'll probably do a piece of sourdough bread with some honey drizzled all over it. So let me make this pretty. And you might be thinking to yourself, why, Ivy? Why are we doing this? Why are we working with the gnomes? Well, let me tell you, we're gonna work with them because A, they're cool and fun. B, they're just great elemental spirits to work with for prosperity of your garden beds. So if you feel like you're somebody that has a black thumb, maybe doing a ritual to work with the gnomes and asking for their assistance in your gardening endeavors would help you out a little bit. So I'm gonna do 5 cloves to make the pentagram. So you can see the star in the center of the apple, and then 5 cloves for the pentagram. And then let's do this one as well. But yeah, this is my 3rd year working with the gnomes, and I've just had some crazy cool experiences, and I just kind of want to keep it going. I kind of want to see at this point where it goes. I mean, magic for me is very much an experimental process. It's not like this perfect recipe that you follow and then it just turns out the same every time, because it doesn't. It turns out different every single time. It's really kind of an art like that. So here's the second apple. And then I think I'm gonna do garlic. So I've got a garlic bulb here as well. Oh, we need honey, don't we? Hold on. Just a little drizzle. And there you have it. This is my offering plate. This seems a little excessive, I know, because this is a lot to offer in a ritual, but this is my one big ritual of the year. So I'm gonna leave offerings out for the gnomes here and there throughout the season, of course, but this is the big one. This is the big ritual to invite them back in. It's a brand new year, a brand new cycle of growing things, so I wanted it to be a bigger offering. So I've got the apples with the 5 cloves, making the pentagram, piece of sourdough bread, drizzled honey on all of those, and then a potato that was kind of getting soft and going bad anyway, so I might as well use it, and then a garlic bulb. So yeah, root vegetables or really anything that grows into the ground is fine. Obviously apples don't grow into the ground, but I'm using apples for the theme of prosperity, as well as the cloves. It can also relate to prosperity, and the honey just kind of sweetens everything up and makes it a really, really nice offering. So let's go place this outside and we'll get set up. Well, the ritual is officially over now. I've been sitting out here for a little while after the ritual, just listening to the birds chirp. I don't know if you can hear them or not, but they are chirping so loudly right now, and that makes me so happy. I did a little meditation afterwards, but the ritual itself, it's supposed to be silly. You're supposed to look silly and playful and goofy and tap into your inner child. And I really like these kinds of rituals because they're so different than what I normally do in my practice, which is a lot more serious and solemn. So mixing it up and doing these kind of rituals is really kind of fun. So I realized in my post-ritual state, I didn't really wrap anything up, but I just wanted to say this ritual, it's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be silly. There really isn't a lot of components to it. So as you saw, I took my mushroom powder and sprinkled it around the perimeter of my garden beds. That's actually the first year that I've done this, so that's not something that's absolutely necessary. Other than that, it's just leaving offerings, which I think another really great offering would be to leave coins or anything that's tied to the earthly realm, because gnomes are associated with the earth element, at least the gnomes that I'm working with. And another note here, the gnomes in my area that I've connected to, these spiritual entities, they are very, very playful. But I just want to say that the gnome spirits can vary a little bit just depending on the region, depending on the folklore. Some gnomes are a lot more serious, and I don't want to pretend like this is the only way to connect to gnome spirits. That's certainly not the case. Mine just happen to be very friendly and silly and playful, but you may come across these spirits that are a little bit more rigid and serious because they do have this connection to the earth element. So research some folklore in your region, but it's more of a process of leaving offerings, and then for me in particular, dancing and chanting and making it playful. And I do plan to leave offerings throughout the year, so I will leave a couple little offerings here and there throughout the growing season. But again, today was really the big ritual, the big offering. So I hope that inspires you. Let me know if this is something that you plan to do in your own practice, connecting to not even just gnome spirits, but maybe just some nature spirits in general. I'll see you all in another video soon.